Why 1 Thessalonians? What are we hoping and praying God will accomplish in our lives through this book? He's teaching us to build a community, a church that displays these 5 realities. We have it under 5 headings, and we'll spend the whole series unpacking these, returning to these, hammering these. These are the main themes of the letter, of the book of 1 Thessalonians, and our main goals in this series. So, number 1, real love. Real love. 1 Thessalonians was written to help us, according to chapter 3, verse 12, increase and abound in love for one another and for all. A church that lives the message of this book will be a church that is full of real relationships, real affections, real unity. Sometimes you will hear people say, in a large church, you can't have real, authentic, deep relationships. I've talked to people. They'll say that the larger a church becomes, the more the relationships in the church will diminish. And the thing that my mind always goes to is all of you, because I want to say to those people, as I would read books and interact with them, that there is a whole church full of hundreds of people who would beg to differ, who have lived and experienced community through years and through decades as a church has grown. Who are able to know from your experience that the depth of relationships that we have are not based off of the size of a church. The size of a church doesn't change your relational capacity. Will a growing church experience the challenge of how to continue to maintain deep relationships and a vibrant practice of community? Yes, any growing church will experience that. We know that. But we also know that real relationships can and do exist in large churches, and in our church, this has been our consistent experience, and it is something for which we thank God. It's something for which I thank God as I think about you. That we have so many people in the church who are known by others and who know others. So many people who carry others on their hearts, who care for one another, who pray for one another, who provide for the needs of one another. That's what's being encouraged and promoted even more in 1 Thessalonians. In this book, Paul models real love by displaying his own heart for these believers. And one of the recurring themes is the love that they have for one another in the church. And so you see the theme of love reoccur throughout. Chapter 1, verse 3, chapter 3, verse 6, chapter 3, verse 12, chapter 5, verse 8, chapter 5, verse 13. They're a community that models this, that abounds in love for one another. And yet, here's one of the things that I love, is that even though they are exemplary in this area, Paul doesn't hesitate when talking about loving one another in chapter 4, verse 10, to exhort them, do this more and more. So that the thinking shouldn't be, in the area of love, loving one another, we've arrived. We've got it down. No, you can be an example in it and yet do so more and more. Love for one another needs to be a category we are always seeking to grow in, and must never be content with. I want this for my life. I want my life to continue to abound in love. And I believe that God wants this for us as a church. It should be that with each passing year, you are finding that your love for others in the church continues to deepen and continues to grow. And so has that been your experience? Is that your experience? How do you anticipate God desires to meet you in this series? And what would it look like for you to grow in abounding in love? Do you speak words of encouragement? Words that are upbuilding to others? Are you walking in sexual purity? We'll see in chapter 4. Do you pray for other people in your community group? In this book, we will learn what it means for us to grow and be in a community that abounds in love.